I didn't expect her to answer, but when she did, it wasn't her voice that greeted me. "She's not here," a man's voice whispered into the receiver. Low, tired. He sounded like he knew exactly who I was, like he had been waiting for this moment. I stood still. The streetlights outside barely cut through the fog, casting long shadows that stretched across the floor. "Who is this?" My voice came out flat, too flat. I didn't recognize it. "Does it matter?" He chuckled, though it was strained, forced. I stared at my phone, my fingers tight around the edges of it. "Where is she?" I said again, more insistent this time. A wave of nausea rolled through me, but I controlled it. "You should ask her," he replied, his voice dark. "But if you do, don't expect an answer." And then he hung up. The silence that followed was unbearable, but there was no choice but to wait. It wasn't a sudden realization. It had been building for weeks, months really. Her distance, the late nights, the excuses that always came too easily, too rehearsed, the empty promises of not tonight that began to sound more like a prelude to something darker than a simple denial. I had seen the changes. The way her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore, the small tremor in her hands when she passed me a cup of coffee, the lingering silence that grew longer between us, like a slow suffocation. But it wasn't until the man's voice on the phone that it truly hit me, a confession without words. The puzzle pieces clicked together too easily. It was him, the one I hadn't seen before, the one who lived in the space between her lies. I'd known something was wrong, but it had never been clear enough to confront. Now it was. She had been seeing someone else, and it wasn't just any someone else. It was someone who had a claim on her, someone who had the nerve to call me. I wasn't angry yet, not really. The shock hadn't fully settled. There was still too much to unpack, too many questions I needed answers to. But somewhere beneath that numbness, there was something darker. Something I couldn't deny. I would make her face this. I wasn't going to beg for her explanation. She owed me nothing anymore, but I would uncover everything. I'd burn through her lies, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. The plan began quietly. I didn't need to scream or storm in and demand answers. I needed to think, to observe, to allow her to hang herself with her own deceit. I started small, tracking her movements, listening to the small things she didn't think I noticed, her texts that always disappeared before I could see them, her phone calls that she'd hang up on too quickly, the missed connections I hadn't known how to call out until now. When she left for work one morning, I sifted through her bag, checking the small compartments, feeling the weight of every item I touched, as though I were tearing through her soul. A receipt from a hotel. The name Greenwood Suites flickered at me from the paper, a name I didn't recognize, not until I checked it later. A quick search, one night, one room. The pieces lined up. I didn't need to speak to anyone. Everything was right there. I didn't confront her, not yet. I didn't need to, not when I knew more than she thought. I followed her the next day, waited outside that damn hotel. I saw him. The man from the phone, the one who thought he was playing me, who didn't know the game had already begun. I watched him leave, his back to me, unaware. I didn't speak, didn't approach. He wasn't the enemy. She was. The next day, I walked into the house with the air of someone who already knew everything, the cold confidence that comes with absolute certainty. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I entered. "Hey," she said, her voice uncertain, too soft. I didn't respond immediately. I just stood there, letting the silence grow between us until it felt like a pressure in the air. I pulled the hotel receipt from my coat pocket, setting it down in front of her without a word. She looked at it, then back at me, but there was no panic in her eyes, no guilt. "Where were you last night?" My voice was too calm, too controlled. She blinked. A slight frown creased her brow. What are you talking about?" I didn't respond. I just pointed to the receipt. Her eyes flicked down, then she swallowed hard, her lips trembling ever so slightly. She was trying to keep it together, trying to hold her mask in place, but I could see the cracks forming. I waited. She looked at me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw something break in her, an edge of fear, just for a moment. She stopped, her voice hitching, and then she gave up the fight. I didn't mean for it to happen. Her confession was quiet, ashamed. It's just, I didn't know how to stop.
You don't stop until you get caught, do you? I said, my voice low and almost mocking. She closed her eyes, and I knew she was feeling it, everything collapsing around her. The truth was clear. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was everything. The lies, the manipulation, the constant avoidance, the half-hearted attempts to pretend everything was fine. And now it was exposed. Every secret she thought she could bury was laid bare in front of her. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to demand anything. I didn't even need to feel angry. The truth had already done its work. I let her sit there, broken, trying to find a way to save herself. But there was nothing left for her to hold on to. I took one final look at her, the woman I had once loved, the woman who had shattered everything with the flick of her fingers, and I turned. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask for any kind of answer. I just walked out. And as I closed the door behind me, I heard her call my name, a desperate sound, full of empty pleas. I didn't respond. I had been ready to feel something, anger, pain, rage, something, but nothing came, only calm. I didn't pity her, not even a little. She had made her choices, she had crossed the line, and in the end, I was nothing more than a lesson to her. But that lesson, my lesson, was this: I had won, and when I walked away, I was the one who left with everything intact, my dignity, my control. There was no joy in it, no satisfaction, just silence, her silence, and my own. It was over.